What's up, people who I hope are healthier than me and fellow Valentine's Day survivors? It is I, your sick guide to geeking and gaming stuff. And I was just pondering and pontificating in my brain, um, thinking about, with the super virus and everything else that's happening to the world, what are my top five post-apocalypse, extinction level events, Hollywood type end of the world scenarios that I think might actually happen. So here he is, my OGGM's top five scenarios that could lead to a post-apocalypse. Number five is space object. The possibility that something out there large enough hits us to cause an event equal to what happened to the dinosaurs or what happened to Siberia or just whatever. What can that object be? Obviously, a meteor or comet is the number one chance of something hitting us. There are other things out there, that could hit the Earth and cause enough damage to bring society to a halt and create a post-apocalypse type scenario. But, top of the list is big chunks of rock. It's happened before. It happens all the time. We are literally being hit by space objects all the time. Just most of them are so small they don't do anything. They burn up in the atmosphere, or they're so small that, they don't do anything when they hit. Objects the size of, that are big enough not to burn up in the atmosphere hit, but they usually hit in places where we don't notice, like the ocean or a mountain or the desert. And it's been a long time since we've been hit by anything bigger than, baseball, football, basketball size meteors. The size of a meteor / comet that would need to hit us in order to create an extinction level event similar to the dinosaurs is pretty decent. I think, if I remember correctly, they thought the one that killed the dinosaurs was, pretty big. And it wasn't really the meteor impact that killed the dinosaurs. It was everything that happened after the meteor impact. It was the nuclear winter, for lack of a better word. It was the environment changing so much that the dinosaurs couldn't survive. The actual impact, wasn't really that bad. I mean, it did tons and tons and tons of damage, but in the relative scale of things, it was what happened after they killed the dinosaurs. Now, there are other things floating out there, that could hit us. I mean, they think the event in Siberia was caused by a particle of antimatter hitting the Earth, and that's something very, very small. Or a meteor that was moving at such an unusual, almost quantum level of speed that even though it was very, very small and left nothing behind, it caused so much damage. So there are, space is weird. And there's stuff in space that we still have no idea. But, number five, some big, large chunk of rock hitting us, bringing about a Hollywood extinction level post-apocalypse type scenario. Number four, good old-fashioned nuclear war. Just everybody gets pissed off and starts shooting bombs at each other. Now, the reality of a global thermonuclear war as pictured in the movies is actually probably pretty slim. I mean, if a global war ever, a World War III type scenario breaks out, will nukes be used? Probably, but probably it'll be the smaller low yield nukes, or because a lot of the big scary ICBM nukes just are sort of been mothballed or just sort of sitting around doing nothing. The technology to operate them still dates back to the 60s. We haven't invested a lot of energy in nuclear weapons, and the rest of the world that has nukes has tend to invested in smaller, low-yield nuclear weapons. We've invested a lot of our military technology over the years in other things, like super gigantic bombs that do massive amounts of concussive and electromagnetic damage, but with very little side effects. And that's why, because a nuclear weapon has no upside. There's no winning scenario if you start dropping nukes, because nukes are awful, and everything they do after you drop one is just awful. They just make everything pointless. I mean, you can't take advantage of a countryside that you've nuked because you can't live there for hundreds of years. And everything is being completely destroyed. So there's no upside to a nuke. It's not financially feasible. I mean, there's no win. You don't get anything out of it. And when you're fighting a war, a couple things go into the minds besides just kill the bad guys. It's okay. What is the end game? Can we hold this land? Is there anything in this land worth taking? Can what's in this land support us now that we're there? And nukes kind of just erase every scenario. So nukes are on the list. A global thermonuclear war happening large enough to create a post-apocalypse Hollywood type scenario. But again, pretty slim because there's just no money in nukes, as opposed to other weapons which would allow people to still use the land after they've blown it up. Number 3 on the OGGM's list of possible global destruction type scenarios is super weather, and that includes volcanoes and earthquakes. Basically, Mother Nature turning against us. And, we've already seen that with global warming, super hurricanes, super storms, ice melting, the amount of earthquakes increasing, the magnetic poles shifting, species going extinct, lack of arable land, lack of land that we can use to make food, toxic gases and emissions in the air, coal fires that are still burning, that have been burning since the 1870s. I mean, Earth is fucked globally, weatherly. I mean, and there's still the potential of super volcanoes going off. So, yeah, something big enough, a superstorm, a geostorm, or whatever you want to call it, big enough happening, or just lots of smaller things happening to create a scenario of the end of a post-apocalypse, stuff like that. Number 2 is just society breaking down. This is your there's no zombies, there was no war, there's maybe some small wars, but it's just more like just everything just sort of broke down. Probably some type of electromagnetic pulse is involved, technology breaks down, just the world just sort of grinds to a halt. Lots of little teeny civil wars, lots of military actions, governments, just coalescing, or perhaps corporations buying out governments, leading to sort of the dystopian Hunger Games type end of the world scenario, where the world doesn't really end, it just sort of breaks down. And, there's nothing cool. There's no zombies or dinosaurs or mutants or nuclear wastelands or anything. It's just people trying to eke out existence where there's hardly anything left. There's no government. There's no technology. You're dealing with, just your typical post-apocalypse film type stuff. And number 1, the thing that I think most likely will bring us to the brink of extinction and create a post-apocalypse movie type scenario is global pandemic. Yes, global pandemic is my number 1. And God, just look at the coronavirus's death toll right now. And let's face it, viruses are adapting and mutating faster than we can come up with antivirals. New diseases are showing up all the time, both natural and man-made. And with the burning of the rainforest and the burning of Australia and the melting of the global ice packs, there's the very real possibility that there are things that have been trapped in those ecosystems for thousands and thousands of years that our bodies just don't have any resistance to. There could be some prehistoric bug that has been buried for thousands and thousands of years in the global ice pack, and because that's melting, that bug gets out. There could be things in the rainforest that have been trapped in the rainforest that we haven't seen or been exposed to for hundreds and hundreds of years, and the burning of the rainforest releases it. So global pandemic, the coronavirus, is my number one. Now, you noticed on my list, I did not list AI, robot taking over, or technology going out of control, because I just don't see that happening. I really just don't see this and Roomba taking over the world. You know, a mad army of Roombas going down the street, going exterminate, exterminate. Yeah, that's just not on. I know that was Stephen Hawking's number one fear for the end of all, the extinction of mankind was AI, robot. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't see it happening. We're not smart enough to create the machine that would be smart enough to want to take us out, because this barely works. And if the Roomba is the highest achievement of robotics that we can reach, no. So that's my top 5 post-apocalypse scenarios that might actually happen. Number 5, giant space object. Number 4, nukes. Number 3, weird weather. Number 2, just society breaking down, dystopian Hunger Games type scenario. And number 1, global pandemic. #coronavirus. Yeah, talk to you soon, losers.